For generations, we gardeners have been taught a simple truth. To build healthy soil, you must make compost. We are told to gather our green and brown materials, pile them high, turn them regularly, and wait patiently for that dark, crumbly gold to emerge. It is a method that works, of course, and I have made tons of it myself over the years. But it has always struck me as a rather slow and laborious process. We spend months, sometimes even a year, tending to a pile in one corner of the garden, only to then move it all, barrow by barrow, to where the plants actually grow. It is a great deal of effort for a reward that takes its sweet time. What if I told you there was another way? A method that is not only faster but also more in tune with how nature builds soil. This is not some newfangled invention, but rather a forgotten technique, a way of working with the soil's own biology to supercharge fertility in a matter of weeks, not months. It is a process I call a hot biolayer, but you might also know it as fermented mulch. It bypasses the slow, separate compost pile and gets straight to the business of feeding the soil food web, right where your plants need it most. This approach is the ultimate expression of no-dig gardening, building fertility from the top down. The core idea is simple. Instead of composting over there and then moving it over here, we do the composting in place. We create a layered system directly on the surface of our garden beds. This isn't just about layering materials, which is a fine practice in itself. This is about kickstarting a rapid fermentation process, a biological fire that breaks down organic matter quickly and efficiently. The result is a surge of available nutrients and a massive increase in the microbial life that is the true engine of a healthy garden. It is a shortcut, but one that doesn't cut corners on quality. This approach challenges the conventional wisdom that tells us decomposition must be a slow, steady, and separate affair. Nature, after all, does not keep a neat compost bin at the edge of the forest. It drops its leaves, branches, and other organic matter directly onto the forest floor, where an army of fungi, bacteria, and other organisms gets to work immediately. A hot biolayer mimics this process, but accelerates it. By providing the right ingredients in the right proportions, we can create an ideal environment for these beneficial microbes to thrive, unlocking a level of soil health you might have thought was only possible after years of patient composting. Let's look more closely at a traditional compost pile. When we build one, we are creating a hot, aerobic environment. The high temperatures, often reaching 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, are excellent for killing weed seeds and pathogens, which is certainly a benefit. However, this intense heat also has a downside. It is a rather blunt instrument, and it can significantly reduce the diversity of microbial life. Many of the beneficial fungi and bacteria that form the complex soil food web cannot survive such temperatures. The composting process, in effect, simplifies the biology. The end product is stable and useful, but it is not as biologically rich as it could be. Then, there is the matter of labor. Building a pile, turning it with a fork to keep it aerated, and eventually moving it to your beds is hard physical work. For every ton of compost you make, you are likely moving it at least twice. This is time and energy that could be spent on other, more enjoyable gardening tasks. Furthermore, while the compost is sitting in its pile, your garden beds are not receiving its benefits. The nutrients and microbial life are locked away in a corner, waiting for you to finish the job. This separation of production and application is the fundamental inefficiency of the traditional method. In-place fermentation, or surface composting, solves these problems beautifully. By building our layers directly on the soil, we eliminate the need to move heavy materials around the garden. Everything is applied once, right where it is needed. More importantly, this method fosters a different, more diverse biological process. Instead of the intense, uniform heat of a large pile, we create a zone of gentle, active fermentation. The heat is less extreme and more localized, allowing a much wider range of microorganisms, particularly beneficial fungi, to flourish. This is a process that nurtures biology rather than sterilizing it. The soil surface is where the action is. It is the interface between the organic matter on top and the mineral soil below. This is where worms, beetles, fungi, and countless other organisms live and work, dragging organic matter down, creating channels for air and water, and cycling nutrients. By fermenting our mulch in place, we are feeding this surface biology directly. We are providing a continuous feast for the soil food web, which in turn feeds our plants. The nutrients are released gradually and are immediately available to plant roots, creating a dynamic and resilient growing environment that a simple top dressing of finished compost struggles to replicate. The philosophy behind a hot biolayer is a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, how do I feed my plants? We should be asking, how do I feed my soil microbes? If you get the biology right, the plants will take care of themselves. A fermented mulch layer is designed precisely for this purpose. It is a carefully constructed banquet for the bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes that make up the soil food web. When these organisms thrive, they perform all the services that lead to strong, healthy plants. They unlock nutrients, improve soil structure, and even help protect plants from disease. The process begins with fermentation. Unlike hot composting, which is primarily aerobic, requiring lots of oxygen, this initial stage is largely anaerobic or semi-anaerobic, similar to making sauerkraut or silage. We are essentially pickling the organic matter. This is achieved by creating a dense, moist layer that limits oxygen. This environment favors fermenting bacteria, which rapidly begin to break down the complex carbohydrates and proteins in the organic materials. This pre-digestion makes the nutrients far more accessible to the next wave of organisms, including the all-important fungi. Once the initial fermentation subsides, the fungi take center stage. Fungal networks, or mycelium, are the superstars of the no-dig garden. They are the transport system of the soil, moving water and nutrients over vast distances and delivering them directly to plant roots in exchange for sugars. A fermented mulch layer, with its woody carbon materials, is the perfect habitat for these fungi. They feast on the pre-digested organic matter, growing their intricate networks throughout the mulch and down into the soil below. This fungal dominance is what gives a mature, no-dig bed its incredible resilience and fertility. Ultimately, this is a system that feeds plants the way nature intended. The microbes consume the organic matter, and then, through their life cycles and interactions, they release nutrients in a plant-available form, right at the root zone. This is a slow-release biological fertilization system that is perfectly synchronized with the needs of your plants. It creates a nutrient bank in the soil, rather than a temporary glut of chemical salts from a synthetic fertilizer. Plants grown in this biologically active soil are not just bigger, they are healthier, more nutrient-dense, and more resistant to pests and diseases. Creating a successful hot biolayer is kind of like baking a cake. You need the right ingredients in the right proportions. The recipe is, honestly, wonderfully simple and adaptable, based on materials that are often readily available and inexpensive, or even free. There are three main components you will need to gather: a carbon source, a nitrogen source, and a microbial starter. Getting the balance right between these elements is the key to kickstarting a fast and effective fermentation, creating that gentle heat that signals the biology is hard at work. First and foremost is your carbon source, which will form the bulk of the layer. This is the long-term food for the fungi. The best material for this is woody, fibrous matter. Ramial chipped wood, which is simply chipped branches of up to about 7 centimeters in diameter, is perfect. It contains a good mix of wood, bark, and cambium, providing a diverse diet for microbes. If you cannot find that, other materials like coarse wood chips, shredded cardboard, straw, or even autumn leaves will work well. The goal is to create a layer that holds moisture, but also contains enough air pockets to prevent it from becoming a soggy, anaerobic mess. Next, you need a nitrogen source to act as the fuel for the fire. This green material provides the energy for the initial bacterial fermentation. There are many excellent options here. Fresh grass clippings are a classic choice, as are coffee grounds, which you can often get for free from local cafes. Other great activators include animal manures, chicken, horse, or cow, comfrey leaves, kitchen scraps, uncooked vegetable waste is best, or even urine, which is a fantastic high-nitrogen liquid. The key is to find something rich in nitrogen that will get the bacteria population booming and start the heating process. Finally, you need a microbial starter or inoculant. While the other materials will have microbes on them, adding a concentrated dose ensures the right kinds of organisms get a head start. You do not need to buy expensive products for this. A spadeful of your best finished compost is an excellent choice, as it is teeming with a diverse range of bacteria and fungi. A handful of soil from a healthy woodland floor is another fantastic option, bringing in a rich diversity of native microbes. Even the liquid from making other ferments, like sauerkraut brine or water kefir, can be used to give your biolayer a biological boost. With your ingredients gathered, you are ready to assemble your hot biolayer. The process is straightforward and can be done at any time of year, though autumn and early spring are ideal. For this example, we will assume you are starting with a new bed on top of grass or weeds. First, lay down a light exclusion layer of cardboard directly on the ground. Make sure to overlap the edges well to prevent weeds from finding a way through. This cardboard will smother the vegetation beneath and will be consumed by worms and other soil life over the coming months. It is the foundation of your new, no-dig bed. Next, it is time to add the nitrogen layer. Spread your chosen green material evenly over the cardboard. This could be a 5 to 7 centimeter layer of fresh grass clippings, a generous scattering of chicken manure, or a good few bucketfuls of coffee grounds. The goal is to create a concentrated layer of energy. Once it is spread, give it a light watering. This moisture is crucial, as the fermenting bacteria need a damp environment to do their work. Think of it as activating the fuel source for your biological engine. This is the layer that will generate the initial warmth. Now, add the bulk carbon layer on top of the nitrogen. This should be your main mulch, a thick blanket of wood chips, shredded woody prunings, or straw. Apply this to a depth of about 10 to 15 centimeters. This layer serves two purposes. It is the long-term food for the soil fungi, and it acts as an insulating blanket, trapping the gentle heat and moisture generated by the fermenting nitrogen layer below. Don't compact it down. You want it to remain relatively fluffy to allow for some air exchange. This structure is what encourages fungal growth, rather than a purely anaerobic, smelly decomposition. The final step is to inoculate and water the entire bed. Mix your microbial starter, be it a spadeful of compost or woodland soil, with water in a watering can, and drench the entire surface of the bed. This distributes the beneficial microbes throughout the top layer of your mulch, ensuring they are right where they need to be to start colonizing the new material. Give the bed a final, thorough soaking with plain water. You want the entire profile to be damp, but not waterlogged. In a few days, if you dig down a little, you should feel a gentle warmth, a sure sign that your fermented mulch system is alive and working. The proof of any gardening method is, of course, in the results. I have been using and refining this method for many years, and the speed at which it transforms soil and boosts plant growth is always astonishing. One of the most dramatic examples I have seen was on a new allotment plot with heavy, compacted clay soil. We created several beds using the hot biolayer method in the autumn. For comparison, we prepared another bed in the traditional way, by digging in some old manure. By the following spring, the difference was already clear. The soil under the biolayers was darker, more crumbly, and full of worms. When we planted the first crops, the results were even more striking. The potatoes grown in the fermented mulch beds were larger, cleaner, and had significantly less scab disease than those in the dug bed. The brassicas were more vigorous, with a healthier color, and they seemed to be far less troubled by pests like cabbage white butterflies. It was as if the plants were simply stronger and better able to defend themselves. This is not magic. It is a direct result of a thriving soil food web, providing balanced nutrition and creating a suppressive effect against soil-borne pathogens. The plants were not just surviving, they were thriving. Another clear indicator is the speed of establishment. I have often planted young seedlings directly into a freshly made biolayer. You might think this is a recipe for disaster, with the active decomposition burning the young roots. But because the heat is gentle and the nutrients are being released biologically, the plants respond with explosive growth. I have planted courgette seedlings into a biolayer made with fresh manure and wood chips, and within 6 weeks, they were enormous, producing fruits far earlier than plants in a control bed with just a surface dressing of old compost. This method also proves its worth during challenging weather. The thick mulch layer acts as a fantastic sponge, absorbing heavy rain and preventing soil erosion. During periods of drought, it significantly reduces evaporation, keeping the soil beneath moist and cool. I have found that beds managed with this system require far less watering than conventionally managed plots. The improved soil structure, full of fungal hyphae and worm channels, allows water to penetrate deeply, creating a reservoir for plant roots to draw upon. This resilience is one of the greatest benefits of building a truly living soil. One of the best things about this fermented mulch system is its scalability. It works just as well for a single raised bed in a small back garden as it does for a large market garden or small farm. The principles remain exactly the same. Only the scale of the materials and the method of application change. For a small garden, you can gather materials by hand, using clippings from your lawn, prunings from shrubs, and free coffee grounds from a local cafe. The entire process is manageable with nothing more than a wheelbarrow, a fork, and a watering can. It is a wonderfully democratic way to build fertility. On a larger scale, you can mechanize the process. Instead of a wheelbarrow, you might use a tractor and trailer to bring in wood chips from local tree surgeons or manure from a nearby farm. A muck spreader can be used to apply the nitrogen layer effectively over a large area, and a loader can be used to spread the thick carbon layer on top. The key is to think about your local resources. Are there sawmills, stables, or landscaping companies nearby? These are often fantastic sources of bulk organic matter, and they are frequently happy for you to take it away for free. Maintaining the system is remarkably simple and cost-free. Your initial hot biolayer will feed the soil and your crops for at least a full season, often longer. The only maintenance required is to top it up. Each autumn, after you have cleared your crops, you can add a fresh layer of compost or other organic matter. This does not need to be a full, thick biolayer again. A simple 2 to 3 centimeter mulch of your own compost, leaf mold, or well-rotted manure is usually all that is needed to keep the soil biology fed and the surface protected. The system becomes more and more self-sustaining over time. I encourage you to experiment and find what works for you. This is not a rigid dogma, but a flexible, creative approach to gardening. Try different materials, different ratios, and different timings. The goal is to build a deep, dark, fertile soil that is bursting with life. By moving away from the slow, laborious compost pile and embracing the rapid biological power of in-place fermentation, you can transform your garden's potential. It is a true shortcut to soil health, a method that works with nature to create the abundant, resilient garden you've always wanted. Give it a try. Your soil and your plants will thank you.